What if the biggest events shaking our world right now aren't random at all? What if they're echoes? Not echoes of a rumor, not echoes of a headline, but echoes of something ancient, something written into scripture, hidden in Torah readings, waiting for the right generation to recognize it. And just so we're clear, this video is for spiritual reflection and biblical insight, not fear or speculation. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: the world doesn't fall apart in a single moment. It changes in stages. It drifts, quietly. It compromises, gradually. It normalizes confusion, slowly, until one day people wake up and whisper, "How did we get here?" So today, I'm going to take you into a story that begins with an ancient scroll and ends with a question that might change you forever. Because if the Torah is still speaking, then the real question isn't just, what's happening out there? It's, what is being revealed inside us? Imagine you step into a room. No phone, no news, no endless scrolling, just silence and a wooden table. On the table lies an open Torah scroll, its parchment worn, its letters dark like ink that refuses to die. Across from you sits an elderly teacher. He doesn't look like a celebrity. He doesn't speak like a performer. He speaks like someone who has watched generations repeat the same mistakes, with different names, in different languages, under different flags. He looks at you and says calmly, "Most people read Torah like it's history, but Torah is also a mirror." You ask him, "A mirror of what?" He doesn't rush the answer. He gently places his finger near the text and says, "A mirror of patterns." Then he whispers something that sounds simple, but hits heavy. Watch the patterns, not the noise, and suddenly you feel it. That strange realization. What if the chaos outside isn't meaningless? What if it's an invitation to wake up, to see, to return? The teacher points to a story you already know, the story of Pharaoh. But he doesn't treat Pharaoh like a character from ancient Egypt. He treats Pharaoh like a living spirit. Not a demon, a mindset. Pharaoh is the voice that says, "We control the system. We own tomorrow. We define truth. We don't need God." And the Torah reveals something shocking. Pharaoh doesn't lose because he's weak. Pharaoh loses because he becomes blind. He sees warning signs and explains them away. He hears truth and hardens his heart. He feels pressure and refuses to change. And here's the part that feels uncomfortably modern. Pharaoh always believes he's in control, right up until the moment reality proves he isn't. The teacher's eyes remain calm, but his words cut deep. Pharaoh collapses slowly, before he collapses suddenly. That's a Torah pattern. And you can see it everywhere if you're honest. Because a society doesn't lose its way in one day. It drifts. First, truth becomes flexible. Then right becomes personal preference. Then holiness becomes offensive. Then confusion becomes normal. And once confusion becomes normal, discernment becomes rare. That's when people stop asking, "What is true?" and start asking, "What feels good?" And that is where every Pharaoh story begins. The teacher leans in slightly. He says, "You want to know the most dangerous stage, the stage that comes right before the fall." You nod. He answers, "Normalization." Because the real danger isn't crisis. The danger is getting used to crisis. The danger is when people start living in pressure and calling it ordinary life. When anxiety becomes normal. When outrage becomes entertainment. When division becomes identity. And then, what used to shock us stops shocking us. The Torah shows this pattern again and again. The fall doesn't happen because the warning wasn't there. The fall happens because the people stopped reacting to the warning. The teacher asks a question that feels like it wasn't meant for a classroom, but for your soul. When did you accept spiritual noise as your natural environment? The teacher turns the scroll and reveals another story. Babel, the tower. Most people think Babel was just human pride. But the Torah reveals something deeper. Babel was about control, unity without God, progress without submission, a future without the Creator. They didn't build a tower because they loved heaven. They built a tower because they wanted power. They wanted to reach and replace. And here's the chilling part. Babel never disappeared. It only evolved. Because today, Babel doesn't look like bricks and stone. Babel looks like systems. It looks like influence. It looks like platforms shaping reality. It looks like a world saying, we will redefine identity. We will rewrite morality. We will choose what's sacred. We will decide what truth is. And here's the twist. Babel doesn't just attack faith with hatred. Sometimes it attacks faith with distraction. Not with persecution, but with endless noise, endless entertainment, endless outrage, endless opinions, until people can't hear God anymore. Not because God stopped speaking, but because the world never stopped shouting. The teacher says quietly, Babel isn't only a tower, Babel is a voice. And the voice says, you don't need God, you just need more control. Now, this is where the Torah becomes personal. Because the Torah reveals something every generation must face. When a society drifts from God, it doesn't become neutral. It becomes vulnerable. And that's when truth becomes difficult to tolerate. Correction feels like attack. Holiness feels like restriction. Wisdom feels like judgment. So people start searching for a softer truth, a safer truth, a truth that demands nothing. And the Torah warns us, a people can lose their freedom while still thinking they're free. Because when you remove God, something else always takes his place. A new idol, a new master, a new Pharaoh. And that's why current events feel so intense, because they don't just expose politics, they expose worship. What we truly trust, what we truly love, what we truly fear. But listen, here's the beautiful part. Torah doesn't only warn, Torah trains. And there's a word repeated like a drumbeat across Scripture. Remember. Remember what God has done. Remember who rescued you. Remember the covenant. Remember the path. Because remembrance is spiritual warfare. When you remember God's faithfulness, fear weakens. When you remember the word, confusion loses its grip. When you remember who you are, the enemy can't rewrite your identity. The teacher places his hand on the scroll and says, you cannot stand in this generation if you forget what God has already proven. And that's where Christians feel something powerful. Because Jesus doesn't appear as an unrelated figure. He steps into this story like the answer hidden in the question. He becomes the fulfillment of what was promised, the Lamb, the Deliverer, the one who leads us out, not only from Egypt, but out of sin, darkness, and deception. And suddenly, Torah stops feeling like ancient ink and starts feeling like a living voice. Then the teacher turns to another pattern, the wilderness. And he says, most people think the wilderness was punishment, but it was also preparation. Because the wilderness reveals what comfort hides. In the wilderness, you find out what you truly trust. You find out if faith is real, or if faith was just routine. The wilderness forces questions like, who am I without control? Who am I without certainty? Who am I when the future is unclear? And Torah reveals a harsh truth. Some people leave Egypt physically, but never leave Egypt spiritually. They're free, but still think like slaves. They're rescued, but still live in fear. And that's the pattern we must watch. Sometimes God is not breaking you, He's building you. Sometimes the shaking isn't destruction, it's separation. Separating what is real from what was never rooted. Now the room feels heavier, not in fear, in clarity. The teacher slowly closes the scroll, and you expect him to say something dramatic, but he speaks gently. You came to connect Torah to the world, but Torah was always trying to reconnect you to God. And suddenly you realize something. The Torah patterns are not just for nations, they're for hearts. Because every generation has a moment when it must choose. Not just choose politics, choose loyalty, choose truth, choose God. The teacher asks softly, in a world full of noise, will you stay awake? Then he says the line you'll never forget. The prophetic echo isn't only happening outside, it's happening inside you. Because current events don't just reveal what the world is doing, they reveal what you're made of. When pressure rises, it reveals your foundation. When fear spreads, it reveals your anchor. When deception multiplies, it reveals if you know Scripture or if you just know religion. And the greatest question becomes not what's next in the world, but who am I becoming in this hour? So here's the conclusion. And I want you to hear this with peace, not panic. If these patterns are echoing, then God is calling. Not calling you into fear, but calling you into focus. Calling you into prayer again. Calling you into truth again. Calling you into the Word again. Calling you into spiritual maturity. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. And you were never meant to blend into darkness. You were meant to carry Christ. So if this video spoke to you, if you felt something wake up in your spirit, don't ignore it. Let this be your moment to return. And listen. If you want more videos like this, cinematic, deep, Bible-rooted, Torah-connected, please subscribe to the Soul Spire. Hit like, share this with someone you love, and comment below. I'm listening, because your support truly matters. It helps us keep creating content that strengthens faith across the world, and your response genuinely motivates us to keep going. And I want to encourage you. Go watch our previous videos on the Soul Spire. Let this become more than a video. Let it become a journey. May God bless you with peace in the shaking, wisdom in the noise, and courage in the days ahead. Because no matter how loud the world becomes, God is still speaking, and those who listen will never be the same. I'll see you in the next video.